Hi, this is Brent the Climate Guru. Today we're going to talk about a subject that many of you may be unfamiliar with, is the decline of sharks in the world's oceans and in coastal areas of all of our countries. This may seem as a topic that who cares? Sharks are man-eaters, they're dangerous. Sharks are a symbol of the decline of marine species in the oceans. Sharks are apex predators, which means they keep in balance the ecosystems in which they live, including tropical reefs, where they eat certain fish and keep the reefs in balance. If they're not there to eat those fish, will proliferate and put the coral reefs in a state of unhealthy conditions. The population of sharks in the world has declined by about half since the 1970s. There are two ways that shark fishing occurs. One is commercial fishing boats have long lines, which are lines that they put out that could be miles and miles long with hooks and baits. They catch the sharks in the open ocean in these methods. And the other one is bycatch. When commercial ships go out to catch fish, their intended target fish may be other fish, mackerel, tuna, and so on. The sharks come in as bycatch in these nets, and they are either kept for meat or fins or thrown overboard dead. One of the biggest problems that we have is that there's a demand, especially in Asian countries, in particular Taiwan and China, for shark fins. Shark fin soup is made from the several fins on a shark. This is a dish which has become very popular, especially since these countries have grown economically and there's a bigger middle class and upper class, saying that now we've made it, we have the luxury of affording shark fin soup for our family or our friends who show up in expensive restaurants. In Taiwan and in China, shark fin soup can cost $100. So sharks are caught intentionally for their meat, for oil, and specifically for shark fins, which are very expensive. There's a huge international market for shark fins, and the main consumers are in Taiwan and China. It's estimated that upwards of 100 million or more sharks are killed every year intentionally by gill netting or longline fishing methods. And the greatest motivation is the shark fins, which are very expensive on the international market. The sharks have been decimated globally, both coastal sharks and sharks in the open oceans. In the Gulf of Mexico, silky sharks have declined 86%. In the Mediterranean, shortfin makos, which are popular for shark fin soup, have declined 70%. The process of catching a shark alive, cutting off its fins, there are fins on the top of the shark, on the tail, and below the shark, then throwing them over live to die in the oceans, a slow, painful death. They can't swim. They die from lack of oxygen because they can't swim. They can starve to death or they can be eaten by other predators. It's a very cruel process, but that's what's happening all over the world. Sharks are remarkable animals, and those who get to know them, study them, swim with them, learn to respect them as very intelligent creatures, and that sharks have been on the earth for more than 400 million years. They survived on Earth through 5 mass extinctions. And the first mass extinction was about 400 million years ago. They survived. Most species on land and the oceans died. They survived. The last mass extinction was 65 million years ago when a large meteor hit the Yucatan Peninsula and killed dinosaurs. That was when the age of dinosaurs ended. Sharks survived. The top shark fishing countries are Indonesia, Spain, India, Mexico, and the United States. Other major shark fishing countries are Norway, France, Portugal, Italy, Singapore, Yemen, and Japan. Lots of sharks are caught off of the coast of Mexico. And in the Pacific, where Costa Rica is the biggest center in the world for the trade of shark fins. There are ports on the Pacific coast that deal almost exclusively in shark fins, with 30,000 tons of shark fins. So the major consumers and trade in shark fins is Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taiwan. And the consumption is mostly in Taiwan and in China. But European countries also are very important, and they dominate half the Asian shark fin trade. Shark fins are among the most expensive seafood products, retailing at $400 per kilogram. In Costa Rica, there are 2 major ports where the huge commercial ships bring in thousands of tons of shark fins. These docks are controlled by organized crime from Taiwan and from Indonesia. What they do there is pretty much unregulated. There are laws in Costa Rica that prohibit shark finning and the sale of shark fins, but they are not enforced. There's corruption in Costa Rica. The authorities are paid off, and they're put in fear by these criminal organizations, and they operate pretty much completely free of any involvement by government. The famous British celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay went to Costa Rica with his crew to investigate the illegal trade, and he and his TV crew were held at gunpoint by the local mafia and were doused with gasoline. They obviously feared for their lives. Filmmaker Rob Stewart tells the amazing story of making a documentary film called Shark Water, where he's in Costa Rica uncovering the illegal shark trade and the corruption between the mafia and the Costa Rican government. While he was there, he was chased down by boats with firearms during the making of the film, and the film came out. It's called Shark Water. According to a study by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, 1/3 of sharks and rays are threatened with extinction. There's overfishing in many coastal countries and in the open oceans where there's no regulation. And the longline fishing methods for sharks and huge nets with bycatch and gill nets catch sharks. In 1950, there were 750,000 metric tons of sharks harvested worldwide. Between 1975 and 2009, 100 shark species declined 80% in population. One of the problems is sharks and rays don't start reproducing, don't have young until they're much older, 8 or 10 years old before they can produce young. And they only produce one pup every 3 to 4 years. So the natural growth of sharks also inhibits their recovery. And a lot of these organizations that catch sharks, they don't care if it's a male shark, a female shark, a juvenile shark, an adult shark. They're totally indiscriminate about which sharks they take without any consideration on their ability to reproduce. Of the deepwater sharks, about 1/3 are threatened with extinction. They're targeted for meat, liver, oil, and of course the fins. Some parts are used for medicines. There's a trade in Asia where the vertebra of sharks, of course it's not bones, it's cartilage, are used and made into powder, which is believed to be an anti-cancer drug. The USDA has said that there's absolutely no basis whatsoever. The open oceans have a very large number of the shark species, and they call them pelagic sharks in the open oceans. And the shortfin mako, which is the fastest fish in the sea, can swim at 40 miles an hour, is particularly targeted for its fins. Industrial fishing has extended all across the world's oceans. Tens of millions of sharks are caught for fins and meat throughout the world's oceans. Sharks that are targeted, according to a study in Nature, include the great white shark, blue sharks, the great hammerhead, tiger sharks, shortfin mako sharks. There are certain areas in the open oceans which are hotspots where certain boundaries come together of different water masses and have best conditions for temperature and nutrient for phytoplankton that bloom. Then the zooplankton feed on the phytoplankton, then fish and squid eat those, and sharks feed on the fish and squid. They have really devastated the North Atlantic blue and shortfin mako and that are caught on long lines. Sharks are the first in line in the balance of the world's oceans, reefs, and coastal areas. The sharks' numbers were reduced in the Bahamas, for example. There are a number of countries, including the Bahamas, that have created shark sanctuaries, and the whole Bahama Islands is a shark sanctuary. It's 630 square kilometers, and 40 shark species are protected. So you can catch sharks for recreation, but shark fishing commercially is prohibited. Sharks can now go to the Bahamas to feed, reproduce. Bahamas also has a very large shark tourism industry. People go to the Bahamas, especially to Bimini and Grand Bahama, to swim with sharks along with experts. This takes place in Tiger Beach, Grand Bahama, and Bimini, and Cat Island just south of Bimini. So the Bahamas prohibits commercial shark fishing, bans longline fishing, and prohibits the trade of shark parts. A lot of these sharks are rebounding. The great hammerhead, which was critically endangered, are now rebounding in the Bahamas. Hong Kong, which was a major center for trade in shark parts, in 2018 passed a law protecting endangered species and shark. Palau in the Pacific Islands created the world's first shark sanctuary in 2009. It forbids all commercial shark fishing in its exclusive economic zone. It protects about 600,000 square kilometers of ocean, an area the size of France. Palau is home to 135 endangered or vulnerable sharks and rays, and the president has spoken at international forums to promote protection of sharks and the promotion and establishment of new shark sanctuaries. The Maldives created a sanctuary in 2010. Guam, a U.S. territory, in 2011, voted to ban commerce in fins. Micronesia, the Marshall Islands, and Guam announced plans to join Palau in a region-wide sanctuary that covers 2 million square miles of oceans. The United States bans shark fishing on all U.S. flagged vessels and forbids the taking of 19 species of shark, including white shark, whale shark, and basking sharks. In 2009, the European Commission proposed the shark conservation rules for European waters. EU countries account for 1/3 of global shark meat exports. We mentioned Spain, Italy, France are large locations for the fishing of sharks. Taiwan banned shark fishing in 2012. In 2023, the U.S. Senate passed a new law, which includes the ban and buying and selling of shark fins in the United States, among other conservation provisions. So the development to create more and more sanctuaries for sharks is growing across many areas of the world. The problem of illegal shark fishing continues in places like Costa Rica, where it's illegal, but it happens on a very large scale. And uncontrolled commercial fishing with long lines and nets, gill nets, in the world's oceans is a continuing problem and continues to see a sharp decline in sharks. Sharks are really animals that we're just beginning to understand. Scientists are really beginning to understand in the last 20 years, and they're not nearly as dangerous as Hollywood and a lot of the sensationalist information would have you believe. Worldwide, there are between 40 and 60 or 70 unprovoked shark bites a year in the entire world, and perhaps between 5 and 10 deaths from shark bites in the entire world. That's an infinitesimally small amount of bites and fatalities. And sharks will bite a human if they mistake it for a seal or other prey. So your chances of being bit by the shark are almost impossible. You have a greater likelihood of being hit on the head with a coconut than being bit by a shark. I have been swimming in the Gulf of Mexico in Florida. I do open ocean swims several times a week for the last 20 years in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Pacific in California in the open ocean. I go past the surfers and I swim. Never had an issue, and so I feel perfectly safe. And sharks really are creatures that we are beginning to understand, to appreciate, and to love, and we must protect them. They are a symbol of our disrespect for nature, for marine life, the world of nature, marine animals, and understand that our actions are causing a sharp decline and disrupting the balance of marine ecosystems. And sharks must be appreciated for what they are. Been on the earth for more than 400 million years. Thank you.